In San Diego, California, sentencing is underway for Brandon Janik. He was found guilty last year in the fatal hit and run of a beloved bartender. We want to get you back into court there now, where Brandon Janik himself is speaking ahead of his sentencing.
I was raised by two wonderful parents. To be a responsible, contributing human being to society. And I failed Mr. Gilliland, his family, and everybody else in this courtroom miserably. I apologize to each one of your children. Taylor, Dylan, and Jamie. I failed horribly at my most basic job as a father. I set a horrible example with my actions. I created this tragic outcome. I struggle with how unfair it is that I'm alive. And Mr. Gilliland tragically is not solely because of my actions. I would literally give anything to change my horrible actions on that fateful night and the death and destruction they've caused. I don't know that I can say anything that offers solace to any of you, but I can promise you that I will not let Mr. Gilliland's death, which was caused by me, to go without making a positive difference in even one person's life. I vow to each of you that I will work the rest of my life to tell my story to whoever listens about the horrific consequences of drinking and driving. The destruction to everyone that follows is unbearable. I assure you that Mr. Gilliland's death will not be forgotten. It will live on in my story and my lessons to others of the deadly consequences of drinking and driving. I accept whatever penalty I'm handed, because the loss that I have caused greatly exceeds any punishment. I do ultimately hope that some of you can forgive me someday, but I also know forgiveness is earned. I cannot change my despicable actions, but I promise all of you I will spend the rest of my life in an attempt to earn your forgiveness through service to God and my fellow human beings. I'm going to prison because that's what I deserve. But I promise each of you that I start my service to a fellow man now. I hope that my efforts in prison can produce some good for my fellow prisoners. If and when I'm ultimately released from prison, I will do whatever good I can to live the rest of my life in a way that God and my family can be proud of. Again, I'm extremely sorry for what I've done that caused Mr. Gilliland's death and the loss of all of your loved ones. I deeply, deeply regret my actions on that day and after. And after listening to everybody speak today, to Josh's sisters, I know there's nothing I can say to bring them back. There may not be anything I can say to change the hate you might have for me, the disgust you have for me. And it's okay. I accept that. You should feel that way. I'm a horrible person in that moment. And I took your loved one. And I'm sorry. To his nephews, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're never going to get to laugh with your uncle again. Celebrate birthdays. I'm sorry.
All right, that was the conclusion of what he had to say to the judge, and the judge issued a sentence. He ended up sentencing Janik to 15 years to life for the felony murder charge, plus additional time on the other charges, which should see Janik serving at least 17 years before he becomes eligible for parole. Perfect time to bring in our guest this Friday, criminal defense attorneys Marie Pereira, Jack Rice. You know, I love to say usually when we're on together, we have the girls' power hour. So, Jack, we're going to include you in our Girl Power Hour today.
Perfect.
Because you have all daughters, so you know what it's like.
Four daughters.
Let's talk. Isn't that crazy? All right, let's talk about Janik. Because Janik did make, I think, I don't know if it was a compelling statement, but he did address the court directly to basically ask for parole, as what his attorneys asked for. The judge said no to that. We're not doing that. You are absolutely going to serve time. And the judge said, this is a sad case. It's a case about making the right decision. Marie, your thoughts to this sentence?
I think the judge nailed it. I think the sentence was just and fair. He got 15 years, plus he's serving, I guess, another 2 years on the insurance fraud. If I had it my way, I would have had him serve at least 4 years on the insurance fraud. But overall, he's not going to be able to file for any type of parole before 17 years. And you best believe the family members who so eloquently expressed their pain, lifetime pain, are going to be at that parole hearing jumping up and down and saying, do not parole him. So it's not over.
Because this was avoidable. He chose to drive drunk. He killed someone as a result. The jury convicted him. Jack, I would argue the 17 years is actually somewhat of a gift, because he could have gotten on the felony gross vehicle manslaughter while intoxicated. That was 10 years. I mean, he could have gotten more than 17 years before eligible for parole.
Well, in the sense, though, I'm not surprised about this number, because when you're looking at the 15 years to life, he may never get out, technically. And what they really did is they capped him out on that issue. And I think the reason that the judge capped him out is they said it wasn't just one mistake. This was multiple mistakes. When the emergency people, the HMs, found him slumped over in his car drunk, the fact that they did that and they told him not to drive and not to drink, and he had already admitted to them that he already had a DWI previously, the fact that he then got back in his car and did it anyway shows a certain amount of not just carelessness, but who cares? It doesn't matter. I do what I want because I choose to. And I think that is what drove this judge to say, I will do everything I can to him. And that 15 years to life was exactly why he did it.
Yeah, I agree with you. The egregiousness of the actions. Let's talk a little bit. The callousness. That's a really good word, because I just have to, when you answer, add the victims. We watched their statements, and you're heartbroken, and it changes not just them, but their entire family for life. There's no getting past this.
I wonder what would have happened if the EMS drivers, after assessing him to be slumped over in his car and him admitting he had a prior DWI, assessed him to see if he was really drunk, and if they insisted on waiting for the police or didn't just leave. Because maybe if EMS had been more aggressive, he wouldn't have gotten behind the wheel of the car after they drove off. I can't help but to wonder how else could have this tragedy been prevented.
And I'll tell you a little bit of an advertisement here. PSA is take a person's keys. Now, you know, you could have gotten into arguments that they're not allowed to take his keys away, but at parties, right, if somebody's drinking, you take the keys away so that they cannot physically drive a vehicle, because you don't want him to take the risk. Jack, any last thoughts?
Oh, no question about it. I mean, you think about what this could have done. Remember, there's always two things happening here. There is the criminal case, there is the civil case. They could go after him, they could go after his insurance company, yes, but they're actually going to be going after the city of San Diego, not just for the EMS drivers, but also for the police, because apparently they couldn't show up or didn't show up. And the answer is, why not? This would not have happened if the police had been there and arrested him at the scene, because being drunk means they can take you into custody. And they chose not to, or weren't there to do it, and this would not have happened but for that as well. This is going to be a max payout by the city of San Diego to this family.
For the civil suit. Really tragic all the way around.
And that still isn't enough, by the way. It doesn't matter what the number is.
No, it doesn't. For family, it doesn't.